Hey there, in today's video, I am just showing you a really simple way to put flowers on to make a flower arrangement kind of thing in a vase just by using simple supplies and then turning that into a card. I actually don't show you the process of cutting it out and putting it on a card. I know I have other videos on that and I will try to link that below, but I basically just show you what I make. And then at the end, I will show you the photos of the completed cards once I've cut them down and attach those to the actual physical card. So, but I'm just wanting to give you like a really quick and easy way if you want to make a card for someone. And sometimes we want to do flowers or something, but it's like, it can feel a little daunting because it's like, there's all these different kinds of flowers and these, you know, it could be very realistic, but these are like abstracted flowers using simple like dots on paper and adding a few lines. And it's as simple as that. So I hope you give it a try. And I hope this helps you get over the hurdle and into making a card for a friend or someone and wanting to put a vase of flowers on the front. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Before we get started, I thought I would just show you the size of the card that I use, which is I buy a cardstock that is scored, and then all I have to do is crease the fold, and then I'm ready to put whatever design I make directly onto the card. Very rarely, well actually never, do I work directly on the cardstock itself. I work on other paper and then I cut it. Typically, I cut it to a 4x6 because my cards are 5x7. I cut it to a 4x6 and I did it in these colors so that you could see that. So this would be the size that I would cut whatever design I wanted onto my card. Occasionally when that doesn't work and I still don't like it, I will cut it down to maybe a 3.5 by, let's see, this was 4x6, so 3.5 by 5.5 size, which is this size, which gives it a little bit more of a border. And sometimes I even go a little bit smaller, but maybe 3x5, but not any smaller than that. So the other thing I do occasionally though is make a square. So this is like a 3 or 3 1/4 inch square. And then I would put that more towards the top, and maybe when I sign my name, I might sign it down here, or I might have something down here. But that is another way I do it. This is not as common. I typically use one of these two rectangle shapes. I just wanted to do I just wanted to show you that very quickly so that you kind of knew where I was heading as I use these other materials. So the next step that I do is I have all these papers, these collage papers that I have cleaned my paintbrush off on. And there are other videos where I talk about doing that exact thing. And then today I have set out a color palette. I've picked some greens in soft pastels and oil pastels, a yellow, a peachy color, and a kind of a corally pinky color. And then in my paints, I have all fluid acrylic, all golden fluid acrylic, except I couldn't find anything pre-mixed in this kind of muted pinkish shade. So I did use more of a heavy body in this one. So I have a chromium oxide green, a transparent iron oxide, a raw sienna, titanium white, Titan buff, and then this one is by Atelier Toning Gray Pink. So typically I mix my colors, and so you could mix to get to that, but I thought I just would start showing you kind of a basic color palette that I would use when I was going to make these these flowers for cards that I do. I like a kind of more of a muted palette, but I like to start on top of some crazy making, and that kind of lends itself to some interest underneath the card. So I also have some brushes, and I also have a Stabilo awl, which I kind of usually block out the basic shape, as you'll see as we get started. But I just kind of wanted to go over that, and then now we will, yeah, so let's get started. I've chosen a few papers, collage papers to start with, and usually I just pick ones that are fairly messy and maybe I don't know where to go with them next because I'm just going to work on top of them. Sometimes that shows through and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I look at it and I think, oh, where would my little vase go? Because that's pretty much what I do is I just sketch out a shape thinking I work typically in the middle. It goes out, but I'm going to cut this down to a 4x6 size. So that would be mostly the middle of this, but that gives me some room to then cut down the piece before I put it on the card. So let's just say yeah, let's just go for it. So I'm just making like a pot. Let's just make a pot like this. And often it gets changed as I'm making it, because here's what I'm doing. I'm not doing really defined flowers for the most part. Let's do some of this, because I'm just doing kind of shapes of flowers. So actually, well, we'll do it two different ways. The first way I will kind of, and then I'm probably going too high off my, and then I'm doing it in a sequence, which I already don't like. So, but I do like to have a lot in here, and I don't know why I'm putting the flower on there. So let's use, I'm not going to start with paint, I think, because it's kind of fun to do these other things. And then I'm going to add some paint. And I honestly, a lot of times I'm just doing circles. So as you can see, it's like a straight line with a circle. And then a lot of times I'll just come back in and add more circles wherever I feel like I want more flowers, even if there's no stems. So I want to just fill the whole thing in. I want it to be kind of fun, because I'm not going for realistic flowers. Now, you obviously could use a book and copy out what you wanted it to be. But for me, I just kind of like a wonky kind of situation like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a brush, and I thought this was going to be more for my flowers, but since I pulled out these pastels, it makes it really easy. But I'm going to paint around it, and I am going to mess it up. So let's do, what do we want our background here to be? Let's see. Let's get maybe a little bit of green in there too. Because right out of the gate, we're not using, so I'm kind of just creating like a place for the vase to sit. A lot of times I probably should have grabbed a darker color, but maybe, we're just gonna make it work. I'm gonna pull these two together and see if I can get a darker color, since I didn't grab anything dark enough anyway. So, because sometimes I like to make a dark background, and we'll just use this. And obviously you could paint your background first, but I kind of like going in, messing it up, and then coming back and painting over it again. And obviously in this case, I've just used some pastels, and it was really simple. And so you get to do it however you want. I'm just trying to show you a really simple way to do this. Now, often I leave my vase. This isn't super interesting, this vase. So I can just choose what I want to do, but this is actually pretty dark too. So maybe I want to come in and just do that and smush that around, make it a little bit more interesting. So there you go. And then a lot of times what I do, because I think, oh, you are thinking this is too precious, I go over the whole thing with a catalyst wedge, and I just smear it. And that, to me, often makes it a little bit more interesting, which I think it did. So now I'm going to grab this white, a little bit, these two together, and I'm going to make this part of the back, this a little bit lighter than the top where it's sitting. And if I wanted, I could come back in and define this edge a little bit more, but it's fine to me. It's fine just the way it is. So, okay. So now I'm going to go back in and maybe make some more marks with this darker pastel, and just kind of do some different things. You could do some leaf shapes if you want. I often, I'm telling you, I keep it really simple. I don't do a lot, because I'm not looking to make it a true floral. Well, I mean, it's a floral, but I'm not looking to make it perfect or like it to emulate some kind of flowers or anything really, just to kind of have the illusion of a flower. And so for me, this is kind of fun, because then I just kind of mix these random colors together. And since I do like kind of more of a muted, it's fun just to kind of add in. And then with the pastels, you can go back over the top and add some in on top once it gets a little bit drier. And where else do we want to go? I think what we need maybe is a hit of this color, which is that transparent iron oxide, which I think is pretty interesting. I'm gonna go over some of these. And obviously your shapes, you could do, you don't have to just do circles, but what I have found is when I do this, and obviously varying the sizes makes a difference, and I have found that just by saying, oh, I'm just gonna do a circle here and there, it totally has taken away the pressure, and so I suddenly find myself interested. I'm gonna grab another paintbrush over here in doing it because there's no pressure for it to be a certain way or to be, and I'm just gonna add some more green over the top. And honestly, this is about it. I mean, I know this seems, and then I just kind of add like little pieces of greenery in, and you've got the green underneath. Usually I wouldn't do a green background. I usually do another color. I should have probably done a yellow or something, but you know, this just kind of makes it a little more complicated. And then a lot of times what I do is I go back in, let's pick this color here, and I might kind of just add a little spot in the middle, you know, just, we haven't used this color, so maybe I want to come back in and just, you can just keep adding little bits of color. Once you have this basic situation going on, it just lends itself to, like, you know, it's a vase of flowers. You're not looking at it saying, oh, well, it's not accurately or it's not descriptive of whatever flower it happens to be, but it is a vase of flowers. And when I cut it down, it will, to a 4x6, it'll cut out a lot of this extra stuff around the sides. But I just done something super quick, super easy, and something that anyone can do. This is not something super complicated. So that's the reason I kind of call them wonky flowers, because you're just making circles, you're adding some dots, you're just making a shape for the bottom and roughly filling it in with paint or whatever other materials that you would like to use. And it's just as simple as that.